Hello and welcome back to my channel and to the video that I know kicks off the season for so many of you. It's wardrobe switchover time. For us, autumn came much earlier this year, so technically I could have done this switch a few weeks back, but I had enough pieces in here to tide me over when the temperatures cooled. However, we're now in October. It's going to be coat weather before we know it, so it's time to switch. So, as usual, the first thing I do is start with my largest hanging rail, which throughout summer was home to my dresses, skirts and shirts. I go through the rail and remove everything that I want to pack away until next spring-summer, and then transfer it into the guest bedroom next door, making designated piles of each category so that it just makes life easier when packing them away later on. I have previously used a freestanding rail to transfer items onto, but stacking up piles does the same job equally as well. I was just left with a few light coats, shirts and loungewear jumpsuits, which for the time being stayed on that central rail before I moved on to my next area to clear, which was my trousers, blazers and tops rail. Again, using the same method, I just went through the rail, selecting the items that would be packed away, which was pretty much all of my trousers and most of my blazers, which were all linen, and then they also went into piles in the guest bedroom. I was left with a few pairs of trousers that I decided to keep out for autumn, which I just moved onto the central rail as I was planning on moving my trousers there for this season. My third and final hanging section is home to most of my sweats, and this would be staying as it is because I wear these all year round, whether it be out for a walk, in the gym, just on a casual day, or as loungewear around the house. Next was my denim shelves, and I removed all pairs and the Perspex label holders that I used to identify each style so that I could give them a good clean. I then went through all of my denim and selected the pairs which would be going away for the next 2 seasons and the ones that I'd be keeping out. I still had denim to add to the shelves as I keep some darker options in my storage tubs, so when putting the jeans back onto the shelves, I just spaced them out a bit so that I could properly reorganise them later on when I had all pairs to hand. I had a basket with swimwear which definitely would not be needed for the seasons ahead, so I emptied that out so that I could use the basket for something else more season appropriate later on. Moving on to drawers. My first drawer has more sweats in, so I removed any that have a slightly more spring-summer vibe to them, and of course all of my sweat shorts, which I will not be needing. I have 2 further drawers of shorts with a mix of denim and lighter fabrics like linen, and they also needed to be emptied out to be packed away. I always have knitwear whatever the season, but as most of it was cotton knitwear for summer, I edited that down to the pieces that I thought I'd still get some use out of, but also bared in mind that I had a lot of cashmere still to come out of storage. My sleepwear drawer also gets edited down, so removing any linen pyjamas and then any sets which are shorts and or short sleeved. Now I do actually need to buy some new autumn-winter pyjamas this year, so I now have the space for them. Moving on to my bag cupboards, and all of my basket bags and woven bags came out to go into storage, and then this freed up an entire cupboard. I'd culled some leather bags earlier on this year when doing my winter to spring switchover, so there's no more bags to come out of storage to go in these cupboards. This was then all free space. The last of my summer accessories were removed, but then over in my accessory tower, that pretty much stayed the same, as I wear the same belts all year round, the same sunglasses all year round, and the same baseball caps all year round. So these pull-out trays tend to stay the same season after season. Earlier this year, I made a fully rotating storage island. I'll link the video for this IKEA hack below in the description box, and I made this with a very specific purpose in mind. My Disney collection. As I go on a lot of Disney trips, and sometimes they can be a little bit last minute, I like to have access to my Disney wardrobe at all times. This collection is much more colourful than my regular day-to-day wardrobe, so I like that it's not on full view and upsetting the neutral aesthetic in this room. But I also love being able to open these doors to utter happiness and see all of my Disney bits organised in one place. So here you can see the edited down version of my wardrobe, which was ready to welcome my autumn-winter pieces that had been residing in my storage tubs. I got out one tub at a time and went through the contents, organising it into piles depending on the category. So here you can see I have a lot of fleeces and outdoor wear, which doesn't actually live in my wardrobe, as these are things which are worn out on dog walks and hikes, so they can get a bit muddy and I like to keep them separate. But they were all grouped together so that they could go in the right place. When I started to get to the tubs that required hangers, I then needed to go into the guest bedroom where all of the piles of summer clothing were and remove the hangers so that I had some to use when unpacking those tubs. So here I was unpacking a blazer tub, and the blazers could then go directly onto the hangers and then onto the rail. Now, as I've mentioned in previous switchover videos, some items can come out a bit creased, so at a later date I do go through everything and steam it or iron it as and when I have time. This also applies to coats, which were then being unpacked and hung on the central rail, as this is the only rail which is full length. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to move my trousers onto this central rail, as my coats only take up half of the rail. Previously, I've stored my trousers on trouser hangers, and this often means that when I go to wear them, I have a crease around the knee from where they've been hung. So this season, I wanted to try something a bit different, and I wanted to try hanging my trousers on clip hangers to avoid having to iron them every time I want to wear them. And the only space that I can hang them this way is in this central section. I only had 3 pairs of jeans in storage, so I folded those and they went into position on my denim shelves, which at this point had quite a bit of empty space, so I'd be able to utilise some of the shelves for other items as I went along and rediscovered what I had. Knitwear is what I own the most of by far. I am a sucker for cashmere and I just love a cosy knit. So once I'd unpacked all of my knitwear from the tubs, I knew exactly what I had and could then start to organise it by category. This is also when I tend to cull items. I do it when getting items out of storage tubs rather than when packing them away, because this is the season that they'll actually be worn. So I feel like I've just got a more accurate view and opinion on them at this point. So going back to categories, this top drawer was dedicated to my favourite cashmere knits, and they're all from COS. I've collected them over the past few years and they all have a high neck, so they all went into one drawer from light to dark order, which is the running order of everything in my wardrobe. I filled another drawer with crew neck cashmere and wool jumpers, and then the final one with very big chunky jumpers. On the other side, my former basics drawer that was full of t-shirts and vests was replaced with my basics knitwear, so merino wool jumpers on one side in order of neckline and then colour, light to dark, and then cashmere basics on the other side, again organised in the same way and all folded vertically so that I can see what I have. I hang cardigans because they're a bit tricky to fold, and they go on this smaller lower rail along with my blazers and shirts. I did have a bit of space on this rail, so I decided to utilise that for hanging my scarves and snoods so that they're now next to my accessories tower. And then I used that empty basket from earlier that had my swimwear in for my cold weather hats and gloves. I also bought a couple more of those baskets and used one for storing my thermal underlayers in, as they will definitely be getting a lot of wear over the next 6 months. And then I split my sport socks up into 2 baskets rather than 1, so that I have full length in one and shorter and no-show socks in another. All of my other day-to-day socks and thermal socks are all in one of the 3 underwear drawers at the bottom of my accessories tower. Once the fun part of rediscovering what I had was over, I then had to move on to packing away my summer wardrobe, aka the mess. As I unpacked all of my autumn-winter items, I was then left with the empty storage tubs, so those could then be used for storing the summer pieces, and this is why I kept all categories together, so that when I got to this stage, it just makes life easier to go through each pile, fold it or lie it flat and then pop it in one of the tubs. Now, as you can see, the tubs aren't completely clear, they're slightly cloudy, and whilst I can see what's inside to a degree, sometimes I miss some of the smaller categories like swimwear and skirts. So this season I labelled my tubs with some masking tape and a marker pen, so that if I needed anything for a last minute warm weather holiday, which is very unlikely, then at least I know what's in each tub, and that would save me some ag having to rifle through each tub to find what I'm looking for. Once all of those tubs were packed, I started to pop them back into the Eve storage space that I have within my wardrobe before moving on to footwear. As you'll have seen previously, I have a cupboard outside my wardrobe which is where I keep my shoes. I have door hanging storage in there and stackable clear shoe boxes which mainly house my trainers. The majority of my trainers stay out all year round, but any sandals, espadrilles and canvas lace-ups like my Supergas go away into storage. I then moved any loafers and ballet flats, which were in some of the stackable boxes, over into the hanging door storage so that I can see what I have a bit easier. Now, last autumn-winter season, I had my boots over on the shelves where my jeans now live. These shelves were always shoe shelves because the configuration of the shelves can change to allow for different heights. But after having moved my denim there in spring, I like that setup now. So the boots that I had to unpack could then go into that spare cupboard that I emptied my summer bags out of earlier. This way they're covered and protected from sunlight, just like my other footwear in the cupboard outside my wardrobe. Any of my premium summer footwear that didn't go into a storage tub was then packed away in its original box, and then those boxes stacked at the back of another Eve's cupboard. My final task was to swap over those hangers in my sweats section. The new ones with the trouser bar had arrived, so I just removed all of the existing hangers, grouped any matching sets together, and then rehung them onto one hanger per set. This gave me a little bit more space in this section so that now the rail wasn't as tightly packed together as it was before, and now I can just reach for one hanger when I want to wear a matching set. And there we have it. My wardrobe is now ready for the cooler months ahead. If you do a switchover, as I know many of you do, have you done yours yet? Or were you waiting for this video? If so, then happy organising, and as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.